Hi, in this video I will show you how to create a full cinematic ad with Higgsfield Supercomputer and how to use traditional CGI as art direction to get photorealistic results with AI renderers. By the end of this video you should be able to create a full AI virtual production pipeline from characters and environments all the way to the final shots. We're gonna cover this in a few key steps. First, we'll build our world Bible, which includes our characters, locations, and style references. Then we're also gonna see how to use Unreal Engine 5 as art direction to log the geometry and camera moves. And finally, we'll generate and refine the actual shots inside of Higgsfield. For this, you'll need a Higgsfield account with supercomputer access. If you also have Unreal Engine 5, that's a big advantage, but it's not required to follow along. You also want to check out the VFX room for a deeper learning experience. Here I will share templates and ready-to-use workflows you can use for your own work. Let's break it down. When you first open up the supercomputer, you will have an interface like this, and it looks like any other chat system like ChatGPT or Claude. Here we can choose our different models. We can use the Claude models, but the best one and the most efficient one is the Orchestrator by Gemini. We also have different presets with different tasks we already have. For example, find the best moments in my podcast, create a UGC ad for the product, run marketing, shoot cinema. There's all sorts of presets you have right here. But for virtual production and cinematic shots, I recommend using your own skills. There's all sorts of presets we can choose from the community. For example, here we have C-Dance prompting skills. So that's a preset for C-Dance when you want to create cinematics. Then we also have connectors, so you can connect it with Telegram or WhatsApp. So you can send style frames directly to the client to get feedback and all that stuff. Then you also have your memory. This is when you have different tasks or elements. You can store it in memory. So every time you start a chat, it will be memorized. You can also import memory from Claude, for example. If you have a project already in there or you have a skill, then you can use it from Claude to the supercomputer in Higgsfield. And here in Belgium, we have a media production company called Hekla TV, and we wanted to have a 40-second cinematic brand film for our agency. And we had some crazy ideas, and we wanted to have a crazy scene arriving by a Chinook helicopter, then skydiving into a volcano, an active volcano, which is a pretty crazy concept, but the only way that was possible in 2 days, keep in mind, I only had 2 days to make this. The only way it was possible was by using 3D and AI. And I used a bunch of references in Claude for the creative concept. And I made a video production script for the characters, the visual attributes, the locations. Pre-planning your production is very important when you want to make something like this. I just listed out all the scenes I wanted for the ad, and I also asked Claude to give me instructions for the Higgsfield supercomputer, which workflow to use and what is best. Based on that project, I made an MD file for Higgsfield, so we can use it as a skill, and also a shot list, a style system, and all the things you need for the concept. You basically feed Higgsfield with information, so it knows exactly what it needs to create and what it needs to look like. Then I input all those files into the chat and say something like, create a new skill with this context. I want to create an epic photoreal video ad, analyze and ingest this for the creation process. And then I hit send into the chat and let Higgsfield do its thing. Then it will read all of the pages and the skill. It will even look up certain parts like the website of our agency and just look at all the visual cues and style to create the ad. And it will also say exactly what it did. For example, here the skill is built and ready. Here's what's packed into it. So we have a full world Bible, so the location, vehicles, suits, color palette. Then we have all 6 characters with their physical descriptions and props. The base style anchor. So I input that I wanted to use a red Monstro 8K, anamorphic lens with CinemaScope, and I also gave it instructions to paste this for every single C-Dance prompt. So it will always use those camera characteristics. Then the complete lens system, so a 40mm, a 35mm, 85, and that will be our visual language for each scene. After that, we can start creating our character sheets. So for this, I will add a high quality photo so you see the face of the person, and then also reference for the volcano suits we're gonna wear. And then I gave some instructions like name, male, 35-year-old, normal build. And then I have two different states, one with no helmet and one with a helmet. Then you hit send in the chat and it will start generating those character sheets for you. And I did this for all the characters and also some objects that they will have. And I also did the same thing for the Chinook helicopter and also objects like a MacBook, for example. So that way it knows exactly when you want to create a helicopter that it needs to reference that element. I recommend storing these into elements so we can use it later on. So we can reference them if we need to. And each of these characters and props will have their own code and their different states. So when you are generating the prompts, we can also use the code, for example. And then the supercomputer will give you some instructions. And then you can say, yes, make the style sheet for the scenes, please. And once I did that, it created some style frames as an example. And for my personal taste, it was too dramatic and the colors looked way too oversaturated. So I gave it some instructions, use realistic muted color grading, no lens flares, no streaks, soft natural shadows, documentary realism. And once I did that, it had much better results. For example, here we have a shot of a volcano, which looks very realistic and it looks just like a real picture. Like if you look at these close-ups, these are very high detailed pictures. Here we have the inside of the plane and then a reference for the plane itself. And I did the same thing for the characters. So here we have one character as an example looking at the volcano, and these look very nice as well. And it was exactly the look I was going for. And we can create more style frames and do that for every location with every scene that we're gonna create. And one quick tip, sometimes the Higgsfield chat can be stuck or it can take a long while to generate. When you're facing that problem, we can create a new chat and say something like build upon previous tasks we did, and then it will look at the previous chat and make all of the elements and all the things you need in this new chat. And it should work much faster than the previous one. And as a CG and VFX artist, I wanted to test out how much control I have over these scenes. So I used the same helicopter model in Unreal Engine 5. I made sure I can animate it, so the rotor blades and the back door. Then I map out the scene without any textures, just place the volcano in the background and then the chopper coming in. And I also place these cubes into the floor. That way, when you want to generate an AI, it knows the sense of speed and direction, and it has some 3D data to work with. Then I created the cinematics with my own animations and also a close-up of the door opening. Once you have that, we can upload it straight into the supercomputer chat. Then it's gonna give me a prompt I can use for video to video in CDance. For this ad, I wanted to have a 16:9 aspect ratio and using a 1080p resolution. I will only go for 4 seconds and then we can hit generate. To demonstrate how this works, here we have our style reference, then we have the video of Unreal Engine 5 and also our elements we created for the helicopter. And it's important when you do this workflow is that the camera behavior, the camera movement is always framed exactly as input video, no added movement. And that will make sure it will use your input video as the direction of the camera. And after that, your 3D render should look photoreal with all the right characteristics applied. But you can also do the same thing for B-roll shots, for example. Here in the chat, I just asked the supercomputer, make beautiful B-roll aerial shots of the volcano, make it a bit shaky so it looks like it's shot from the helicopter, different angles, and also one higher angle looking down at the volcano. And once I instructed that, it gave me 3 separate videos. And I have to say, these look very realistic. And it was exactly what I was going for. Like, look at this shot, for example. You have the lava spewing out of the volcano. Looks pretty sick. Then we also have this shot right here of the water and the lava entering the water, which look awesome. And you can also use this for your characters. For example, here we have a B-roll shot of Peter Jan in state 2. Use the red dragon cinema camera, so that's what he's holding in his hand. And I simply instruct and direct the shot. I say, make him walk away from the volcano towards the camera. Very strong establishing shot. Make 2 variations, close and wide, 4 seconds each. And once I did that, it just created these 2 shots exactly as instructed. And I think this close-up looks very great, and it's really nice for an establishing shot. I also created some close-ups of the suit, which look very detailed and very cinematic. You can even instruct it now to make different sequences, so it will create your edit for you. For example, in this shot, I instructed that they need to go out of the helicopter, that they need to jump out of the helicopter and make a cool sequence from that. Then we had a result like this. In terms of consistency, it can be a bit better, but I can take some shots from these sequences and recut them in my own editing software. Also, what I found is when you are making shots with humans in it, with characters, it's important to also add an extra reference frame with a close-up of your face. Then doing it that way, it creates much better results. Normally, when I create clones of myself, I can instantly tell it's not me, and I didn't get perfect results using just this style frame. So that's why I also added this extra reference frame to really have the face detail in there. And just to be transparent, for most of the shots, like say 60%, I had to do a second run for this. And change some things in the prompts just to get the exact shot I wanted. But if I didn't have all the references and style sheets beforehand, I would have to prompt much more countless generations. So that's why pre-production and planning before making your shots is very important to save up on those credits. And here is the final result of the short film. To get the most out of this, I also did some post-production work in DaVinci Resolve. I added some overlays, my own color corrections, and a small touch of color grading because most of the shots are already color graded. It's embedded in the shot. Also, for some of these close-ups, I added my own effects. Here we have this progression bar stuck at 99%. So I made a 3D scene inside of Fusion, just like this. So I made this AI picture of this progression bar stuck at 99%. And then I simply added that picture on a 2D card. And then with Fusion in 3D, we created our own little close-up from that. And we can also add some overlay effects, such as scan lines, some blur, some radial blurs, to make it look like it's actually shot on a screen. And for this establishing shot, I also had someone filming the volcano. But as you can see in this monitor, in this LCD display, but in the display itself, it was just grayed out. There was nothing displayed on the screen. So I added a tracker node in Fusion and tracked the screen, the LCD display back in. Just a small detail like that can make the AI render a bit better. Here in the helicopter, it was a hole, a big hole in the helicopter. That was something I needed to fix as well. So I simply patched it back up and filled in the hole But if you can fix small imperfections like that, it goes a long way and it looks much better and more convincing. Also from this shot, we have the door opening and we can clearly see the engines of the helicopter. But behind these engines, there should be some heat haze from the heat of the engine. So that's what I also added back in Fusion. I added a displace node with some noise and then displaced the footage a bit and also added a bit of blur. So it looks like heat haze. And then of course I made the whole sound design. I used the AI sound design. On top of that, I also added my own. So it adds a bit more punch to it. And yeah, just adds a bit more depth and layers. If you want to learn to edit and composite in DaVinci Resolve, I highly recommend checking out the VFX room. In there we go in depth on how to fix your shots and also adding nice visual effects to your footage. And that's it for this video. Hope you learned a lot and you can use this in your own workflows as well. And yeah, see you on the next one. Peace.